still going to be ramblings in Proverbs, and we're still going to be in Proverbs, the 17th chapter. But we're going to start down in verse 9 and deal with these little gems. And it is rambling because they don't follow any particular order. They don't necessarily belong together in a logical plan. It's just these are things that are good to know. And so they're just, what I like to think of them is as mirror verses. Those verses that you write down and you put on your bathroom mirror so you'll remember them and you see them every day. And if you have that habit of doing that, you may look at your mirror sometime and go, I don't see where these verses connect, because they don't. They all mean something to you, though, at a different time. And so that's why this is set up that way. It's not meant to be a this goes into this. It's these are things you need to remember, and put them someplace you can remember them. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. I don't think this means he seeks to be loved. I think it means that when you cover up an offense, when you let something go, it's because you're seeking love to be there. That they're to be loved. Not that you're wanting to be loved, but you want love to prevail. But he who repeats a matter separates close friends. You can cause a lot of damage by repeating things that don't need to be repeated. You know, there's a caveat in there, is, you know, it's that some things don't need to be repeated. Some people make mistakes. They do things they shouldn't do. Because we all do. But when you repeat that, instead of that being something that was a one-time thing that the person did and they're sorry about it, or they may not even know they did it, but when you repeat that, it separates close friends. It causes trouble. Maybe a way to look at it is, how would you like to have somebody following you around with a camera and then telling everybody about the mistakes you made? I remember the little church in Orland had two preachers. Neither one of them full-time. One, an old gentleman who had been preaching for probably since Moses was around, you know. He worked in the sugar factories, but he was an old preacher and he was good. And we had a young guy who was in construction. And they were working on the church building. Because you know, in those small congregations, you can't hire people to do anything. You pretty much just have to get volunteer labor. Well, the old preacher was out there hammering, and he did what I do more than once. That hammer missed and hit his thumb, and he said a bad word. That young preacher just couldn't let him live that down. He had to repeat that. Had to keep telling people, no, you know what, when that happens, you shouldn't do did that. When somebody hits your trigger points, you shouldn't get mad at them. But shouldn't do are two different animals. We don't want our worst times to be hung out for everybody. We are an aggregate of actions, not a single action. And that's what's so bad about it, is when somebody repeats these things, they take a person's entire life and focus it down to one teeny thing that is not them. A rebuke goes deeper into a man of understanding than 100 blows into a fool. If you are a man or a woman of understanding, of thinking, of being a good person, a rebuke, a chewing out, a word against, does more good and hurts you more than those people who don't try to do that if you hit them 100 times with a stick. Because good people, people of understanding, want to be good. They want to be perfect, and they see their faults, and it hurts. Which is why you have to be careful when you rebuke a good person. You have to be careful in your rebukes. Remember, a rebuke is worse than 100 blows to a fool. You're handling a deadly weapon when you rebuke somebody. Is it good? Yes. Will it do good? Yes. But be careful that you don't do more harm. Be careful in your rebukes. We'll skip now to verse 12. And let a man meet a she-bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. Don't get involved with people without a lick of sense. Okay? That's what it's saying. Don't get involved. They will get you into trouble, and guess what? It's going to be your fault. They're going to end up blaming you. I love that picture, you know. You never want to be standing between a mama bear and her cubs. That's not a good place to be. Neither is getting involved with somebody who is foolish, but also in the biblical sense, rebellious, wants to do things their own way. That's the biblical sense of foolish, is not somebody that just does silly things, but it's somebody that rebels against doing the right things and wants to do things their own way, and they will get you in trouble. Now here's a lesson for today that I think our world is reaping the results of this one. If anyone returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. I think that describes our nation right now. We have started returning evil for doing good, and evil's not going to depart till you change that attitude and start doing right. The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before the quarrel breaks out. story of the little Dutch boy and the dike. Put his finger in the dike. Just a little leak. And that's what this is talking about. The beginning of strife. Strife starts as a little bitty thing. Like a letting out of water. A trickle of water coming through. So quit before the quarrel breaks out. What happens if you don't plug that leak? The dike breaks, the dam breaks, the levee breaks, and disaster happens. So pay attention when you see the beginning of strife. The very beginning, just a little, quit before it gets disastrous. And that's the thing about, I love that picture because if you've ever seen pictures of dams breaking, it starts out little and gets a little bit, and then all of a sudden it went from this to it's gone. It's too late. If you quit before the dam breaks, you save friendships, you save so many things. And since nobody knows when the dam breaks, he says the wise thing to do is when you see the beginning of strife, stop it. Don't keep going. Don't think, well, I can get just a little, I can get one more word in. I can just do one little bit. Stop it when it starts. Verse 15 is another one that does a lot with our society today. I hit it and it switched pages here on me. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. I like verse 16. Sometimes I love God's sense of humor. Why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom when he has no sense? It won't do any good. It won't do any good. Yeah. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. This pretty much mirrors a verse from the New Testament that I think people forget. It says, love never fails. If you have a true friend who loves you, they will love you at all times. The bad times, the good times, they will be there. It won't change. If they truly love you, that's not going to, nothing is going to change that. And a brother is born for adversity. You know, that's, you know, what does that mean? A brother, whether it's physical, spiritual, or friendship-wise, they're born, created for, made for adversity. A brother is made to be there when the times are bad. That's what they're for. that we're brothers and sisters, and we were created for the hard times. We were created for when the people are at their worst, when there's trouble, when there's problems. I think maybe we have lost some of that. And my personal opinion, not scriptures, is that when we started letting the government do our benevolence for us, we stopped being benevolent. We stopped feeling it was our job to take care of our neighbors. And I think that should be good for. One last one, verse 22. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Sometimes all you can do for somebody is take their mind away